Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Burning Questions, brought to you by Fantasy Football Scout ahead of Gameweek 17. Harry and Andy are unfortunately unavailable this week, yellow flagged, but we've got Sam in as a replacement.
Super sub.
Yeah, the super sub, just like the Q&A last week, Sam.
We're back together again.
Yeah, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. I think, well, this is definitely my first Burning Questions appearance, but I think this is one of the only. I've got like a bingo card, like tick them off. Like I think I'm nearly there now. I think I've nearly done all of the Scout YouTube content now. Burning Questions was one of the ones I still hadn't ticked.
Always reliable.
Always turn up and annoy everyone. But yeah, I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah,
You're supposed to be on
not bad.
holiday, so this is commitment from you.
Yes, yeah. Well, I love talking about my rubbish game week. It's always fun. Yeah, we'll get straight into it. Today we're going to cover defenders and forwards around the Cunha and Aït-Nouri price points, because that's what people seem to be doing, myself included, and you, Sam, as well, potentially doing those moves. But before we do that, we are going to just quickly look at Game Week 16. So, Sam, I'm bringing your team up on screen. A good week, another green arrow. Do you want to talk us through that?
Yeah, it's been a good week actually, and I thought, well, I wasn't sure how this week was going to go. It was one of those where I looked down, I was like, "There's points galore in this team," and then as all the premiums started to not do anything, I was like, "Oh, this is not ideal." And Ray and Aït-Nouri sat there with his -2. I can't tell you how angry I was about that. But Lewis Hall doing the business, the double Arsenal defence coming in nicely as well. Bruno Fernandes from 0 to hero during that game, barely did anything, yet then scores the penalty and picks up some bonus points, so that was really nice. Had the armband on Salah, so it was the right thing in the end of the three options that I had, I guess. Solanke picking up just the assist. I can't quite bring myself to be happy about that though. In a 5-0 win, really.
Fortunate assist as well.
An assist. I don't know about that. You sound like Lee. But I think you expect more than that, don't you, from the number 9 in a 5-0 win?
Well, you
Evan
stopped playing
Nilsson.
at half time, didn't you?
We did, yeah, nice and coasted at home, which is unusual for Spurs because we don't do that anymore under Postecoglou. So this is fun. But obviously we've got a big week. We've got Manchester United in the cup tomorrow night, and then Liverpool at the weekend. So a massive week. So not surprised really to see coasting home in the second half. But yeah, Lewis Hall, the absolute hero though, really, wasn't it? It was him that made that arrow green fundamentally.
Yeah, fair play. Captain Salah as well. The right decision in the end, although not by too much. Yeah, so moving on to my team, pretty disappointing again, unfortunately. Raya, Van Dijk, who I brought in, conceded in about the 2nd minute or 7th minute, was it? Something like that. Aït-Nouri with the red card after the full-time whistle. Gabriel did well with Raya, that was good. Semenyo, Palmer, Saka, all blanking. Salah with the assist, but the EO meant it was useless. And then Jackson and Cunha probably saving me from a really bad week with a goal and bonus points. Luckily Cunha wasn't sent off after the final whistle as well, because that
you got quite lucky there, because he could easily have been. Yeah.
And then João Pedro again, like, just disappointing. Him and Semenyo on very thin ice. But yeah, it was 52, I think, something like that. Yeah, down to 865k. So you've gone the other. You've overtaken me this week.
Yes.
Yeah.
Finally.
Yeah, that's Salah captaincy.
Yeah. The thing is, it's really close at the minute, right, Tom? Like, I still think that even the smallest thing, the smallest margin makes such a big difference. So the fact that, even had I played Dallo rather than Aït-Nouri, and I was never going to, so it's a stupid way of looking at it really, but those 4 points are massive in terms of the rank gain that you get from just 4 extra points. So yeah, it is what it is. And I look at your team and I think, it's actually genuinely really unlucky, isn't it? Because like Van Dijk, you would have expected that this clean sheet probably stands, although it doesn't eventually. Semenyo, he's a frustration. João Pedro had opportunities. Yeah, could have been better, I guess.
Yeah, it's just the captaincy. If Palmer scores 1 goal, then that's a good week.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. But we got to look forward, got to move on. plenty more points in the future. We'll go on to defenders, with lots of people sitting there with Eight Nori, disappointing. These in this good run of fixtures, he's disappointed, and now he's suspended for the Leicester game because he got a bit aggressive after the final whistle and got sent off. So for the podcast listeners, I've got on the screen a table from the members area of cheap-ish defenders around Eight Nori's price, sorted by expected goal involvement, going down the list from number 1, Leif Davis, number 1, Luca Dean, number 2, Lewis Hall, number 3, Emerson, Robinson of Fulham, Mitchell of Palace, Dalot, Kirkes, Pinnock, Colwill, Dunk, and Alex Moreno. I don't know why Munoz isn't on this table. That's my mistake, but he's had the most big chances of any defender, so we can talk about him as well. You've got Lewis Hall, Sam. If you didn't have Lewis Hall, would you say he's the best replacement for Eight Nori?
I don't think he's the best. I think he was heading into the last 2 fixtures, but after this week, the fixtures do toughen up a bit for Newcastle. Do you know, I was actually a little bit worried about about Lewis Hall going into that one, because obviously with the Nick Pope news, I was like, oh, even less likely to get a clean sheet now. But actually, he's on set pieces as well. He takes some corners. He's got good attacking threat. So I think he's a good option. I think for me, if I hadn't got him already though, and I was looking for an Eight Nori replacement, I'd still be looking outside of him, I think, as an option. I think Robinson is the standout for me. Like, he's the one that has the nice fixtures coming. I think if you can be a bit flexible with your defence over the next few weeks as well, and you don't need to play them every week, then I actually quite like the look of Mikalenko at Everton as well, because come the new year, those Everton fixtures are really nice. So if you can manage your squad in such a way that you don't have to play him in some of the more difficult fixtures that they have coming up, then I do think he's a nice option too. Kirkes is another one I'm looking at, and I was looking at Munoz as well. But there were kind of factors. So I nearly rage transferred Eight Nori out. And then I thought, I can't do that because there's so much football to still be played afterwards. And I know a lot of people were doing it, but in my head, I was like, well, I could just go straight to Robinson, but I want to watch Munoz, who then was playing on Sunday. Obviously also picks up his 5th yellow card, so now is suspended for the next round of fixtures. So that has slightly dampened my enthusiasm for him. And then Kirkes wasn't playing until Monday night. And so I wanted to just give myself a bit of thinking space. And yes, I've missed price rises and I've missed price falls, but I think at this point of the season, knowledge felt more important than a 0.1 or a 0.2 here or there.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, with Munoz, he's suspended this week, but it is Arsenal, so you could still make the move if you have another defender this week. Because that's the situation I'm in. I don't have to take out Eight Nori this week. And because I've got nothing in the bank, I may do it next week. So I can afford a Robinson or a Munoz, I think.
Because at the minute, I've got him sitting on my bench anyway for like Eight Nori for this week. So it's kind of like, well, it's not the end of the world to have to keep him there. And we'll talk about that more, I guess, when we look at my team later. But I think there's so many good options right now in that kind of just slightly over 4.5. Like, I think you're struggling to go under 4.5. But if you can go just slightly over into the sort of 4.7, 4.8, then there is a lot of good choices around there now. Yeah,
definitely. Top of this list, Leif Davis. He's got a better expected goal involvement than the second best player by almost a whole goal involvement. So he's by far and away the most attacking, but the fixtures are not great. So that's unfortunate timing, really. I think you said Ipswich were going to get 6 clean sheets or something about 8 weeks ago, did you?
It was a long time ago.
I think they've got 1, but
they have, yeah. It's not been quite the defensive masterclass that I was predicting from Ipswich at that point. Although he's been decent, like, and there's been some attacking returns and stuff for them. I think Ipswich have not been as bad as I think a lot of people were expecting. So in that way, I was kind of right, but not. I was maybe a bit over enthusiastic about the amount of clean sheets that they had. I think it's a bit late for Leif Davis now. Like, I think you're coming towards the end of that good run of fixtures that they had. If you want to have him because there's attacking threat there, then I don't hate it, but I just think at this point there are so many other better options that with nice blocks of fixtures coming up, like Fulham, like Everton, that you could go to instead. That makes a lot more sense in my mind.
Yeah, for sure. I think Robinson is probably the best bet for me. And I'll probably be... It's a shame I can't get to him this week for free. Although if Cunha is banned before the weekend, I could do Jimenez and Robinson for a hit. Something like that. But yeah, Colwill is on this list with good fixtures. I don't think it's the worst thing. If you're sort of looking for a slightly cheaper than Robinson. Like for me, if I was doing a straight swap, I can only go 4.6.
Okay.
I think Colwill's probably the best 4.6 or below. I mean, him or Lewis Hall, it would be between.
I think from attacking threat perspective, Lewis Hall stands out more than Colwill. I think with the fixtures coming up the way that they are for Chelsea, there's probably more clean sheets in the Chelsea run though. So it's a bit of a gamble between those two, isn't it? If you want to play the upside of attacking returns, then I think you go for Lewis Hall. If you want a bit more security, maybe with some clean sheet potential, then maybe it's Colwill. But Chelsea just don't. You feel like you're a little bit allergic to clean sheets at the minute. Like I'm all about the treble up on the Chelsea attack. Like that's great, but the clean sheets just a bit like Spurs. Like just one goal here or there. It's a frustration. Yeah. And from FPL perspective, unless they're then going to get some attacking returns, you can't really invest, can you?
Yeah, I think we've been a bit unfortunate. Like the Leicester game, conceding a penalty in the 90th minute, then the Brentford. The last minute goal from Burmo. But yeah, we're probably not the best team for clean sheets, but I think at 4.6, Colwill's up there. Anyone else worth talking about? Let us know in the chat who your favourite 8 Nori replacement is. I think Munoz is going under the radar a bit. I really like him. No defenders had more big chances than him this year.
I like him too. I think it's only the suspension that is putting people off. I think had he not been suspended for this weekend, then more people would have already gone there. And that's part of the reason I'm thinking about just waiting a week, because I could not invest this week, leave 8 Nori sitting there. Yeah, I might lose a bit more value in 8 Nori, but I mean, he's brought me no points, so I might as well earn nothing from him in value at the same time, it feels like. And then go for Munoz. I think he's a really, really nice option. I like the change around at Crystal Palace. I like what's happening there. And he's got massive attacking threat, as you say. So I think having a back line that has him and Robinson in it with one other in that 4.5 bracket makes a lot of sense right now. Like if you can have a back line that's got Munoz, maybe Lewis Hall, maybe or a Kirkes, and then has Robinson, that feels like the ideal 3 that you can rotate around alongside having maybe a Gabriel and another Arsenal defender or a Liverpool defender if you prefer.
Yeah. Just finally, any love for Gomez? Greg mentioning him in the chat. 4.9, I think. But obviously, Konate.
I wonder if it's a bit late, because at some point Konate is going to come back, and when he does, Gomez is going to lose his spot because Robbo is going to have his suspension in the League Cup in midweek, so he's available for the game against Spurs at the weekend, which I didn't realise at first, and then made me rage when I realised it, because I was thinking, they've got no Simicast at the moment either, so we have all these defenders playing out of position, might actually be beneficial for Spurs. But yeah, so I think it's probably a little bit late for Gomez, because you know that when Konate is back, he's coming straight back in.
Yeah. If Anderson is back this weekend at 4.2, I think I'll be very tempted to just do 8 Nori to Anderson and bank the money. Yeah. I think that's something that I'll be looking at. So I would advise people to stay tuned for Marcus Silva's press conference. Because 4.2, as soon as he's fit, he's going to come straight back in, and that's a really good price.
I owned him a lot last season, Anderson. I think he's a really, really nice option, and he'll fit back and strengthen that defence as well. So, yeah, I agree.
Cool. Okay, so if we had to rank our top 3, I'll go first. I'd probably say Robinson, Hall, Robinson, Munoz, and Hall, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I think they're the best 3. And then I think there's other options that you can go to after that, but they're the standout 3, I think.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so before we cover forwards, in the event that Cunha is banned, we just got to shout out Fantasy EFL. They're basically in Gameweek 21, which starts on Boxing Day, they've got a triple game week for 4 clubs, I think. So that's a lot of fantasy points up for grabs, and they've got some cool prizes for that for a 1 week only league. So if you haven't been playing it yet, that doesn't matter. Sam, this might be of interest to you because Spurs are still in the Carabao Cup. The first prize is 2 League Cup final tickets. amongst plenty of other things. So that's quite exciting.
That is exciting. I'd like that.
Yeah. You might have to sell them when you get knocked out in the semi-finals, but
Oh, Tom, why? That's uncalled for. So unnecessary.
who are you playing this week in the cup?
Man United.
Oh, this could go either way, to be fair.
Yeah.
And then who
I'll be
else
there.
is in it? City are knocked out. Chelsea are knocked out.
Liverpool surely beat
And
Southampton
Arsenal,
tonight.
yeah, Arsenal.
Arsenal's still in it. So it's going to be Arsenal, Liverpool, Spurs, all United.
If you somehow get a Liverpool-Arsenal semi-final, you might be in business.
We might be in business, but then what happens if it's Liverpool Spurs in the final? My household just descends into like I can't live through another Champions League style final. Wouldn't be a good idea, would it?
That would, yeah. I mean, surely of all the teams you can go, I suppose you've got lots of injuries, but you'd think Liverpool would be more focused on the league.
They're playing Southampton, so that's basically a bye.
No new manager bounce.
Not even got one yet. So when they've got a new manager, they might get a bounce, but I can't see anything other than a Liverpool win later.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, so do check out Fantasy EFL. So yeah, triple game week for that on Boxing Day and a 1 week only league with some really, really good prizes. So yeah, and you'll find lots of content for that on the site. Cool. So moving on to forwards, we should probably preface this with the latest that we know on Cunha, which is he's been charged. So he's allegedly for we have to say allegedly, but for like taking the glasses off the Ipswich coach's face, so he has done it. I'm not sure he'll be getting away with anything. It's just a case of how long the ban is, and I guess as FPL managers, purely FPL wise, there's a fair chance that he won't be banned before the weekend, just based off previous precedent, and especially if Wolves appeal, I guess it gets extended.
What are they going to appeal against?
Well, yeah, we don't know yet.
It's complete clear video footage of him doing it, so you can't really appeal, can you?
But yeah, I mean, the only thing is if he's available this weekend, you're not selling before Leicester. I wouldn't have thought.
No, I wouldn't have thought so either. And I think, as much as I was just jesting about Southampton, often you do see some new manager bounce, regardless of whether they've got an actual manager in place or not, whether it's an interim. Like, you do see that, don't you? So I think if I can't see him getting he's got till today, is it? No, tomorrow to reply to it. And then obviously they've got to decide on how long he's going to get, because it does feel like it's probably a how long is he going to get rather than is he going to get anything.
Yeah, of course.
So
we'll need a replacement next week.
Yeah, you will.
The minimum. Yeah.
You're just lucky. You're lucky, Thomas, that you didn't get minus points for him as well.
Yeah, well, the ref was too focused on 8 Nori at that point.
I know. I wish he'd focused on Cunha. I'd have taken the retrospective ban for 8 Nori. Dear, oh dear.
But yeah, so whether it's this week or next week, we will need a replacement in all probability. So we've got on screen for the podcast listeners cheap forwards sorted by expected goal involvement in order from the highest, which is Evan Nielsen, then Visser, Chris Wood, Raul Jimenez, Vardy, Delap, Mateta, and João Pedro at the bottom there, despite being the most popular. But yeah, so you've got Evan Nielsen. In a word, would you recommend people go from Cunha to Evan Nielsen?
Oh, Evan Nielsen.
He's top of the stats. He's got that's from penalties that he's not on, isn't it? Though he's missed. Yeah, he missed one pen, didn't he?
I think part of the problem with Evan Nielsen is that he's getting in all the right places. He's having the right types of shots as well. Like, it's really annoying because the underlying numbers are there. Like, the investment was done for the right reason. Since I brought him in, he just seems to be allergic to putting the ball in the back of the net. It comes off the post, it comes off the bar, it goes slightly over, it goes slightly wide. But I like the way that Bournemouth play, and I do think that they will continue to create good levels of chances. And I think at his price, he offers good value for money. And I think it depends on how your team is structured. Like, the fact that we're getting these now cheap midfielders in Enzo and Diallo, and still keep Rodgers in that conversation as well. The fact that those three are there now means you can, if you want to, have 3 of them, or 2 of them probably is more likely, because you can also in Salah and Saka. But if you can do that, it means that you can afford to have maybe Evan Nilsson as your cheapest forward and have two more expensive ones alongside, like an Isak and a Jackson. And I think if you're doing that, then he is a good pick. Whereas I think if you've got just a little bit,
Is he better than Jimenez though?
well,
How
that's a good
can you
question.
justify the 0.6 million there?
I think he's more guaranteed the starts than Jimenez.
Yeah.
I think Jimenez has the Muniz factor in the background, and he's come on and been good over the last few weeks when he's played. So there's that going on in the background that you need to kind of consider. I, it's hard because I sold Chris Wood for Evan Nilsson a couple of weeks ago, and I sort of already regret doing that because Chris Wood just feels like he's always likely to get something, even if he's not really involved in the game. Like he's less involved, but feels like he's more likely to return weirdly than Evan Nilsson does. So I don't know. If you've got a little bit more money, I think Chris Wood's better. The question about Jimenez, personally, if I was going to invest in the Fulham attack, I'd rather have a Wobie than Jimenez. I feel like you get more certainty there. So I guess I still do think Evan Nilsson is better, but there's a significant change in price there, isn't there? It's what, 0.6, and 0.6 goes a long way elsewhere. So I guess it depends on how tight your budget is.
Yeah. I mean, this week, if Acuna is banned this week, the temptation will be Jimenez because he's got Southampton at home this week.
Yeah.
And that'll be quite hard to ignore. You can free up 1.2 million and then get Southampton at home. That'll be tempting for a few. But yeah, Mateta I think is going under the radar.
Agreed.
With these fixtures that are coming up after this week. If you can stretch, he's 7.2, so he's a bit more expensive than the others, but I think he's massively going under the radar.
Yeah, I think probably because Crystal Palace weren't great at the beginning of the season, were they? So everyone just kind of went, basically, we've got 19 clubs to pick from. Let's just ignore the fact that Palace exist. So we've then got into this period of time when Palace have improved. Fixtures are looking better. They're playing well now. Eze's back, starting to get their flow and their mojo back again. I think the issue that you have with Mateta is what you just said. It's the price, because you're not far off the Jackson price point there. Like, and I know that Jackson's rising and rising and rising constantly all the time, and it's the same with Isak. But if you can just find that extra million, like, I still feel like there's quite a big difference between owning Mateta and owning them at the moment. But I do quite like him. Like, I've got Solanke at the moment as my third, or as my most expensive forward, and he's like doesn't appear on this list at all, and hasn't been returning on the promise. Like the eye test, if you watch Solanke and you watch Spurs, the eye test is definitely there. He's so involved, but he's not in the right places to finish, and it's frustrating. So I guess for me, it's a question of, well, what do I do about that? Do I go up a little bit to somebody like a Jackson or an Isak, or do I come down a little bit to somebody like a Mateta, or do I come down significantly and go to somebody like Jimenez? Like, I need to kind of ponder on where I'm going with that front line, because my concern is that if you come too low on all of them, then it's really hard to come back out of that when inevitably somebody starts being good like Isak and Jackson have over recent weeks. So Mateta, I'm still gonna give Evan Nilsson a few more weeks though. I just think that the underlying numbers are there for some good returns, and I feel like if I sold him, that'll bite. That's gonna haunt me.
Yeah. João Pedro is also an interesting one. People getting frustrated with him. Like, sometimes he plays deep. It's a tough watch sometimes with João Pedro, and then he'll just randomly get subbed off on 70 minutes. I don't think I'm looking to sell yet, but because I've probably got bigger priorities. But he's getting frustrating, I think. How do you feel about João Pedro?
He is definitely frustrating. I think you are more accepting of João Pedro and the nonsense that comes with owning João Pedro because he's priced at 5 point, and depending upon when you bought him in, 5 point something. So when you've paid, like, I think I paid 5.7 for him. When you've paid 5.7 for a forward, you're kind of like, well, all right, if he returns once every 4 weeks, then I'm sort of all right with that, as long as my other forwards are also returning. But then I'm looking at him now at 5.9 and thinking, well, really, if you look at all of those guys above him, the Delaps, the Vardys, the Jimenezes, even John Duran at Aston Villa, who's not guaranteed to get the start by any stretch of the imagination, but does come on and does do well, all four of them feel like they are more consistently going to score goals than João Pedro does. But João
Yeah.
Pedro also feels like the sort of player that could just go on a haul one week and return a massive return and then have a couple more weeks where he doesn't do anything. Like, Brighton are the peak of inconsistent at the moment. They're so Jekyll and Hyde. Like, even within a game, like they can be 2-0 up and then lose the game. And you're just kind of like, what's happened during this 60-minute period? So it's hard with him. I'm going to try and be patient because I just feel like I've got other things that I want to fix before I fix João Pedro.
Yeah.
But if you're looking at your team and there's nothing wrong with it, then going from João Pedro to Jimenez, I think makes a lot of sense. You probably are going to get 1 week where he gets benched and he plays Muniz instead. But he probably still comes off the bench and gets some game time. And I just think that particularly this weekend against Southampton, what you said before is right. You could get a massive haul out of him.
Yeah. Also, like Chris Wood, for me, he's probably be my number one replacement just because he's just like, I think we're just ignoring him, taking him for granted a bit. Like the fixtures, he's got Brentford, Spurs and Everton and Wolves the next 4 games. And all jokes aside, those are 4 teams that you'd back Forest to score against, right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
And then Southampton after Liverpool, so
yeah. Oh, but Southampton will be peak then. They'll have a new manager.
Sam Allardyce will have
They'll,
sorted them out.
yeah, they'll be defensively rock solid, and we won't be able to have fun picking players against them anymore. Yeah, Chris Wood's probably is a regret of mine. I sold him and shouldn't have. I think what you just said is right. I do think we take him for granted a little bit because he's just so consistent. It's like every week, and even like the game we've just had, all right, doesn't return, but he did have the ball in the back of the net, just got ruled out. So he's always in the right place at the right time. He, like the consistent churn of 6 pointers, 7 pointers is phenomenal at the price that you're going to pay for him.
It's 8s and 9s as well. He gets
yeah,
yeah,
because we get bonus points often from him because they're not exactly. Nottingham Forest don't often score loads and loads of goals, so but they're defensively solid, and so 1 or 2 goals here or there win some games, and Chris Wood has the numbers to do that. So yeah, I do regret selling him. I don't know, but I wouldn't sell Evan Nilsson to bring him back in. So then it's a case of, well, do I move João Pedro to him? But then again, that's significant investment to go from João Pedro up there because you're talking a big price change. So I just need to consider what I do there. I think over the next few weeks, Chris Wood will become increasingly popular in people's teams, though, for sure.
Yeah, I can definitely. I mean, assuming that Cunha's ban hasn't come through before Saturday, I can see myself doing Cunha to Wood next week for that Spurs at home. I think that's a decent. Well, no, in all seriousness, that's.
Do you just like to wind me up? Is that why you've got me here, just to come and
That's a decent fixture. I can see that game being like 2-2 or something. I think.
2-2
away at Forest, not an easy game.
Yeah, right.
But I mean, but when you say Chris Wood's going to be playing against Archie Gray, that's kind of.
Well, he probably won't though, because Van der Ven is due back just after the Liverpool game. So.
Oh, is he?
Yeah. So
fair enough.
Yeah, Van der Ven's a more short-term injury. So he should be back relatively soon. Obviously, Romero is still remaining out. So, but then it will be interesting to see how he plays that because Dragusin is naturally Van der Ven's replacement. Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how he manages that. And Ben Davies, thankfully, doesn't seem like it's as bad either. So he should be back in the new year as well. So, yeah, if we can get Van der Ven back in, that will improve. But look, you can't really have a go at Archie Gray. The kid's a midfielder, and he's playing everywhere.
Sam, Dave. The Athletic have just said that Postecoglou said that the centre-backs will not be back until 2025.
Oh, well, he said that today?
Yeah, just now.
Oh, there you go then. He was due back just after the Liverpool game, so he must have had a setback.
Yeah, so that's game week 20.
There you go. We'll be Archie Gray then.
Chris Wood against schoolboy Archie Gray. It could be fun.
Legend. Chris Wood against the legend that is Archie Gray. Archie, can you play here? Next week we'll find him in goal. He literally just moves everywhere. Anywhere he's asked, yes, I can play there. Off he goes. Bless him. What a ledge.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what happens there. But yeah, I actually think like Chris Wood he's probably my favourite Cunha replacement, I think. Probably
More
like the
than
least
Jimenez.
sexy one. Like is probably the least like exciting one, but Jimenez, yeah, I suppose it depends if you need the money or not. But you'd think Muniz is going to start one game over Christmas, wouldn't you?
Yeah, for sure.
Didn't Jimenez miss out in the last midweek round, I think.
I think Muniz will start at least one game over Christmas because it's a busy period, and why would you not when you've got the ability to change it up? Why would you not use that, particularly when it's a decent option to come off the bench as well? It's not like you're massively downgrading the team, is it?
I mean, Jimenez has only got 1 goal in 8 as well.
Yeah, but it's Southampton.
Of course, yeah. But Muniz it's the same number, and he hasn't actually started.
Yeah.
So and he's just scored the goal at Anfield. So yeah, I'd probably Chris Wood is my favourite. What about you? If Cunha was back, you don't have Cunha, do you? Actually,
no.
But if you did and he was banned tomorrow, where would you go?
If I had to stay in this price point, I think I'd probably go Chris Wood.
Yeah.
But I do think if you can afford to go to Jackson, that's where I'd go.
Not going to argue with that. Scored again.
Yeah, it's so annoying. Like, not having him is a frustration. I've got to decide between him and Isak. That's my big decision coming up. I think I'm too late on Isak, really. I think the Jackson fixtures are better.
Yeah, fair. Anyone else on this list? No, not Delap, Vardy, probably not going there. Visser keeps scoring and no one's got him, but
yeah, but
the fixtures.
The Thiago thing, the fixtures are turning. If you've got him, I think you hold him, but I don't think you'd buy him right now.
Yeah, cool. So that's forwards. We both really like Chris Wood. If you're just joining, we've done defenders, so do skip back 8 Nori owners. There's a few questions about it in the chat. We'll do our teams now and then we'll take a few questions, so chuck your questions in the chat. But Sam, your Gameweek17 team is on screen now. I'll just read it out quickly for the podcast. David Raya, Lewis Hall, Dallo, Timber, Bruno, Saka, Captain Salah against your club. Palmer, Solanke to balance out that anti-Spurs there. And then Evan Nielsen and João Pedro. And you're benching Rodgers. You've got 8 Nori sitting there third sub, so you don't need him this week. You've also got Vandenberg with a decent fixture and Fabianski with a decent fixture. So we'll start with the sort of the bench and whether you need 8 Nori. What are you thinking there?
I don't think it's the end of the world to have 8 Nori on the bench. Like, I mean, obviously, I would prefer to play 8 Nori against Leicester, but I think the back three is fine. Like Hall, Dallo, and Timber this week, that's fine. Like they've got decent fixtures, they've got attacking threat. Like I'm happy enough with them. It's a little bit annoying when I have like Evan Nielsen playing against Dallo. Like I don't particularly enjoy that. The same with like when I've got Salah and Solanke in the same match. Like I don't.
I'd put Rodgers in for Evan Nielsen. It's Man City. Like, you don't think Rodgers is going to get joy against?
Well,
at home as well. I'm quite excited about Rodgers this week.
I don't know, Tom. Like, I feel quite torn about the Rodgers thing because like Rodgers and Evan Nielsen, I think is quite tight this week. Like Man United make slip ups at the back as well, so I think there's an opportunity there for Evan Nielsen. I don't love the fact that it's an away game, whereas obviously for Villa it's a home game, and they are so much better at home than they are on the road this season. Rodgers against that City defence, I do think could get something, but then he hasn't, like the last few weeks he's been a difficult own, because apart from the 8 points in game week 14, it was like 1.2 points, 2 points, 8 points, 2 points, 2 points. Like it's not even like we've been getting an assist here or an assist there. It's just nothing. It's like nothing or a big haul. So like obviously against Brentford, it's just the goal and the bonus point. So we're not seeing the consistency that we were. There was that period in the middle of the season, wasn't there? Like game week, I'm just looking at now, game week 5 through game week 10, where he was quite consistently churning out returns. And since then, it has become less. Now, I guess it depends on what you think Man City are going to do.
I think they'll lose at Villa Park. I just can't really, like... can you really see them keeping out Watkins and Rodgers at this point? This
No,
reminds me of Chelsea in 2016 when, like, do you remember we just won the league and then it went completely wrong? It's like every week people saying, yeah, they'll turn it round, but there's nothing to suggest it's going to change.
no, I'm not sure that they will turn it around quickly. Like, I think it's going to take time. It's not going to be something that happens overnight for sure. I just don't think it's. I guess for me, the question is which team do I think has got the bigger potential upside? Like, I don't think that Villa have been great recently either, and that's the
That
kind
is
of issue I
fair.
have
Yeah,
there.
that's fair.
Like, it's not like Villa have been playing brilliantly. Had if Villa were going into this week playing excellently, then I'd be like, well, let's play Rodgers then. But they haven't either. Like, I think they've been a bit disappointing in recent times. Whereas Bournemouth, with the exception, even on Monday evening, actually, when they came back, like they have been good. They have been impressive. As a team, I think they've been better than Villa have in recent weeks. So I'm more likely to go there, even if the fixture's slightly harder. I think that's where I'm going. Although I do generally prefer to play the midfielder if it's a choice because you get the additional points for stuff. But I could just see a Villa win where Rodgers blanks again. Is
Yeah,
important and plays well, but doesn't return.
yeah. Okay, so that's bench. Fabianski Raya, no decision there.
No, I don't think so.
No, yeah. If
Like,
you're benching Raya, I suppose why have you got him? If you,
yeah, exactly. I think the double Arsenal defense has been working well. All the stuff that we've just said about Crystal Palace still remains true, but I just think that the way that Arsenal are, unless something major happens tonight when they play in the League Cup that would change my mind, I can't see any reason why I would play Raya. Like Fabianski makes lots of saves, yeah, absolutely, and his potential upside is there, but Brighton will score. I'm pretty sure Brighton will score against West Ham. They're always good in attack. My issue with my team, I guess, then is what do I do? I've got two free transfers.
yeah,
I could replace Eight Nori. And if I do that, it'll be for Robinson, who of course I'm going to play because
yeah. Then that's tricky, isn't it? I mean, you'd probably then have to bench Dallo, wouldn't you?
I'd have to bench Dallo.
Yeah,
Yeah. So then I'd have to bench Dallo because I'm not going to bench any of the attacking players. So Dallo would have to go on the bench, which then you've got a question why I've got Dallo in my team if I'm going to bench him for my cheaper defender. So there's that, but that's an option. One of the other options is that I change up the way that I'm invested in my front line. So I've got two transfers, so I'd have to downgrade Bruno in order to have the money to upgrade somewhere else. So it would have to be Bruno to Diallo. And then if I did that, that would enable me to go from any of the front line up to Isak or Jackson, depending upon which one I preferred. But then I look at that front line and I'm like, all the things that we've just said about João Pedro and Evan Nilsson kind of ring true. Like, I don't think you can sell João Pedro ahead of West Ham. Like, defensively, they are all over the place. Like, even if Fabianski plays a blinder, like
yeah.
Brighton
I
should
wouldn't be
score.
doing that. No, I wouldn't be doing that.
No, so I could sell Solanke, and I might sell Solanke. Like, that is definitely an option. But then, and yeah, he that's definitely an option. And another option is I sell Rodgers and get Enzo in. So basically, as you can see, I'm a little bit torn. I'll have to make some decisions on how things have gone after the League Cup because most of these players have either got League Cup or Chelsea have got European football, which obviously doesn't affect Palmer. But
Yeah, I wouldn't worry about any of our
I don't
first
think
team
so.
players.
No,
Jackson
I
for
don't
sure
either.
won't be playing in that.
No. But I still like to wait until after those games are played out. And obviously that coincides with the Manchester United and Spurs game tomorrow. Because if I look at my team, like I'm quite heavily invested in those teams that have got games this week. So
Yeah,
I'm going to wait it out. Whatever I feel like I do with my transfer, like there's lots of things I can do, but somebody ends up on the bench who I don't want to be there. And then, so that makes me think maybe I should just do nothing again and then deal with it all ahead of Christmas.
yeah.
What about your team?
My team, I'll bring it up. I'll read it out for the podcast. Raya, Van Dijk, Dallo, Gabriel, Rodgers, Captain Salah, Palmer, Saka, Cunha, Jackson, and João Pedro, with Semenyo, Dunk, and Eight Nori on the bench. One free transfer, nothing in the bank, so I'm pretty limited, to be honest. I think if Cunha's available to play, then I'll probably just roll. I don't think it's worth doing anything yet because I've got nothing in the bank, so I can't get Robinson. Can't get Munoz. I don't think I could get Lewis Hall. C 4.7 or 4.6.
Yeah, I think
but yeah. So I can't get Robinson, who I ideally would want. And if Cunha's not banned, I'm not going to sell Cunha before Leicester to free up the money. Because I could do Cunha to Wood and then Aït-Nouri to Robinson, but I'm not going to take a hit if Cunha's fit.
No, absolutely. I think if
he's available,
he's available, you just hold Cunha for this week and then you deal with him once the ban kicks in, right?
Yeah, I could do Semenyo to like a Dallo and then play him over Rodgers. But again, I think that's close and I don't really think it's worth a transfer. So I'll probably roll it and just give myself 2 frees next week.
Yeah.
And free up money. And then
your team's it's not dissimilar to mine, to be fair, in terms of like you could deal with all of these things, but it just gives you more benching headaches, I think, if you do.
Yeah. And then captaincy, I'm going to captain Salah, I think. I just... like, I've got away with it the last 2 weeks, not going Salah, and I wasn't going to go Salah before the game was postponed. I was always captaining Palmer against Tottenham. And I think got away with it those 2 weeks. So, yeah, I'm going to go back to Salah for Spurs this week. Because we always struggle at Goodison Park. And, yeah, I can see us maybe winning that 1-0, 2-1 or something.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? It's that I absolutely detest captaining somebody against my own team. But when I look at the options that I have available in my team for captaincy this week, both Everton and Crystal Palace have been better defensively. Like, I don't see either and I'll absolutely eat my words, I'm sure, at some point over this one, but I just don't see Arsenal or Chelsea going absolutely huge on goals in that one, whereas the Spurs-Liverpool game genuinely I think could be, who knows what the score like
Liverpool have got more chance of scoring 3 or 4 than Arsenal or Chelsea, I think.
I think so too, and I think you would expect that if they do score multiple goals that Salah would be involved in that, whereas I still maintain that at Chelsea it could be Enzo, it could be Jackson. There are other players outside of Palmer that it could be. Salah's a little bit different. Saka's a little bit different because it does feel similar to Salah. Like if Arsenal are going to get something, it's probably going to come through him at some point, whether it be from a corner or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, there is the Fraser Forster as well factor. Someone just said in the chat.
Uncle Fraser, he's been brilliant. Yeah. He has been brilliant.
He could have got back up and saved that Palmer penalty. Do you think? He
was outstanding, that man. I love him dearly. He comes in, he does the job. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not.
If you buy Isak, someone's saying in the chat, he's better captain than Palmer possibly this week.
If I buy Isak, that is definitely where I'd go. Yes.
Or you just roll in Captain Bruno.
Bruno is another option.
I mean, to be honest, I think you should captain Salah, but if you don't want to do that, that's because it's Spurs. That's your decision, and that's fair enough.
That is just generally a rule that I have of life. Like, I can't bring myself to want somebody to do well against my own team. So
yeah.
But then we're one injury away from me having to play for Spurs at the weekend. So
you just said it was all fine.
Well, I thought it was because I thought Van der Ven was going to be back. If Postecoglou's ruled him out until the new year, that's
Udogie's out of the game tomorrow.
I'm not surprised at that though. That's fine. Jed Spence can play there tomorrow, so I think that's fine as long as he's back for the weekend. Even if he's not, like, the kids, we're gonna have to start, like, I don't know, we have to pay some like school fees or something at this point. Apologise to the schools for the amount of kids we got playing for us. We had 4 of them playing on Sunday night. Yeah, look, it's going to be what it will be. So let's see how Spurs and that get on tomorrow. Let's just check everyone else makes it through. I think Isak is the probable. Isak for this week is what I would like, but I do think I want Jackson more longer term. So it's, do I do a short, get Isak for 1 week and then go to Jackson straight after from him, or like, that's a dilemma.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I would just say I'll be cheering on Spurs this week, obviously.
What? Why?
We could be top of the league. Well,
you will be if you win.
Beat Everton, and then you do as a job.
You never cheer on Spurs.
Properly be top of the league. It's quite exciting.
Yeah, but we won't do you a job.
Well, you might get a point
that.
if you can turn up, like you are.
We do sometimes turn up, yeah, and at home games we do. You see, and we've got a load of Squid Games characters going to the game. You seen this weird thing Spurs are doing at the weekend?
No. Is that a Son promo thing? Is it?
I don't know. It's no something to do with South Korea or something. So yeah, probably
Yeah.
some, but something to do with the new Squid Game series. So Spurs are going to have Squid Games guards wandering around the concourses during the games tomorrow night, I think, and at the weekend. Tell me
Sounds
why
fun.
this is a
Yeah.
tell me why this is a
Maybe
thing,
you could
Tom.
put that money in the transfer budget, or no, that's Daniel Levy. Anyway.
Yeah, there's no money in the transfer pot ever, Tom. Where's all the Kane money? Let's have a bit of that, please. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So we'll take some questions now, just for 5 minutes or so. While we wait for questions, Sam, any Brennan Johnson, if you own, benched against Southampton, just
Yeah, it's just a
quickly.
rest though. It was just a
You think
rest.
it's a rest? Yeah.
Yeah. We've got all manner of problems in defence, but we've got too many forward players. So he just was his rest.
Okay.
It's fine. Don't worry about him.
Cool. All right, let's take some questions. We had one from Eddie. Eddie has no Salah. Should he do a -4? Haaland to Isak, Cunha to Wood, and then getting a midfielder to Salah, like Gordon or Bruno or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
There is the thing
Particularly, I'd
with
go
Haaland.
Gordon.
Yeah.
Gordon up, because if you've got Isak as well, then you covered Newcastle.
Yeah, for sure. What other questions have we got? Ahmad, Rogers, Enzo.
Or pick one.
Yeah, or rank them. I think Ahmad has got...
Ahmad probably is top, yeah.
think
Then
so.
Enzo, then Rogers for me.
I'd probably go Rogers over Enzo.
Would you? That's interesting.
Yeah. I still think... I don't know. I just sort of question how long this Enzo run's going to go on for. I don't know.
Well, it depends if he keeps playing where he's playing, doesn't it? If they keep playing
It's just Maresca change it. Maresca doesn't stay on the same thing, though, for more than a few weeks. Like, I know some managers do the same thing every week, but Maresca... Yeah.
My manager does that.
Maresca is... Like, every time you think it's decent, like, we were winning games, and then he put Caicedo at right back, and then... You know, like, he does stuff, he's always adapting. So I think I'd go Rogers, to be honest.
Interesting.
Sean saying chances of Badiashile playing, I'd say low. Apparently he's out for a while, so it will be Tosin and Colwill, I would have thought. Would you start Rogers or Enzo this week?
Well, I think if I had Enzo, I'd start him.
Yeah, I think having just said I think Rogers is better, this specific week, I think it's probably Enzo at Everton. Although I do think Villa are going to beat City, so...
Yeah, but I don't disagree on the Villa versus City thing, to be fair.
Man City are just... I mean, yeah, anyway, that's a different podcast. Mbomo, would you keep or sell?
No, I'd sell.
Haven't they got a home fixture this week, though?
Yeah, they do. But I'd still
Is
sell.
this not the last week? Who are they playing at home?
Yeah, but you can't... How many weeks have we going to
Forest
say
at
this
home.
is the last week?
I think you do. And then you can sell him next week if you want.
Yeah, but Forest defensively aren't terrible. Like, do we really think that... Like, this actually... Oh, well, I've put my headphones out. This will be really interesting because Forest are good defensively. Brentford at home don't ever stop scoring goals. So what's going to... Like, I think that game's quite hard to read. I would sell him.
But what, to buy like Ahmed and then go
Yeah.
down? Okay. So if you've only got one free transfer, you could do it next week. And then, because you do it as a double move, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. But I still think that I prefer Ahmed for this fixture than I do Mbomo.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Would you play Enzo or João Pedro? I would play João Pedro.
Against West Ham.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we're going to struggle at Goodison Park.
I don't think you'll score a hatful, whereas I think Brighton might.
Yeah. Start Gavardiol or Lewis Hall. Gavardiol.
Lewis Hall, surely.
Yeah. Although Gavardiol scored last week.
Yeah, we might get a goal, but he's not getting a clean sheet. I can't see that. Whereas Lewis Hall could have another haul on his hands.
Lewis Hall.
With a haul.
Questions. Oh yeah, we haven't talked about Iwobi.
Love Iwobi.
From Colm. Yeah, I could do Semenyo to Iwobi this week. I
Yeah.
probably won't, just because it doesn't free up any money, and next week I'll just be in the same situation of having no money and only one transfer. But he's 5'7". I'm not. I mean, are you really gonna say you want him over Ahmad at 5'1", or even Rogers at like 5'3"?
I think I would rather have him. Yeah. I really like the Iwobi pick. I think when you look at the fixtures that they've got coming up, there's really good chance of really good returns for him over the coming weeks, and the underlying numbers are there as well. So I think Iwobi is on my target list for sure.
Semenyo
Which,
owners going to
if I had Semenyo,
Iwobi.
I think I would do that. Yeah. If I had Semenyo, if I had like Mbomo, I would go from him to Iwobi. I'd do that this week.
Yep.
Yeah. I like him. I like his security of starts. I like his underlying numbers. I like the way that Fulham are playing. I don't think there's anything not to like about Iwobi. He's really cheap as well. So good option, I think.
Yeah. Okay, last few questions. If Anderson is back at 4.2, would you still go Robinson at 4.8?
Yeah. I would, but only because of the attacking threat. Like, I think if you can't afford the 4.8, then it's absolutely fine to go for Anderson if he's fit and available.
Yeah.
But I think you will always look at Robinson and be like, oh, I wish I'd have had the extra budget to go for him.
Yeah, that's about how I feel a little bit about that with Van Dijk and Trent. But
yeah,
Jackson or Jimenez for Cunha?
Jackson.
Yeah, I prefer Jackson, I think. Isak and Ahmad or Bruno and Jimenez? I mean, that's basically your transfers, isn't it?
That's basically my dilemma. Yeah, that is basically my dilemma. At the moment, I've got Bruno. The thing is, I do like the Bruno pick. He's kind of consistently
You're not going to sell him.
returning.
Like, he's got Wolves
I
and
can't-
Southampton coming up. Like, if you don't do it this week, why would you
Well,
do it
that's the
next
thing.
week?
I kind of feel like I might be just stuck here for a little bit
Yeah.
because I don't feel like I want to sell Bruno anytime soon. Like, he's on penalties, he takes set pieces. Yeah. But if I had none of them and it was a free choice, then having Isak up top would have been a priority
Yeah.
over having Bruno in midfield.
Yeah. All right. Cool. I think we'll leave that there. Been going 55 minutes. Go get back to my holiday.
Yeah, enough talking to the boss. You can go off on holiday now.
Thank you. Yeah, okay, so cool. So Sam has got some tricky transfer decisions. I'm probably going to roll. I'm probably going to captain Salah. Sam is trying to do everything to avoid captaining Salah, whether that be with Isak or Bruno. Could be interesting. But yeah, we'll see.
Sad times.
Remember to check out Fantasy EFL. I'll put the link in the description. They've got some really good prizes, including 2 League Cup final tickets for their 1-week league starting on Boxing Day. So if you haven't heard of it, you haven't played it before, there's no barriers. You don't have to have been playing for this season so far. You can just get involved and try and win those tickets. And yeah, thank you very much for filling in, Sam.
You're welcome. It's been a pleasure to talk to you, as always.
Thank you. Thank you for watching, everyone. Do like and subscribe and rate the podcast if you're listening on there. And stay tuned. We'll have the Q&A Thursday. If you're watching this today, that's tomorrow. But Thursday, 12:30, a bit earlier than usual, with Sam, and Az will be back. So you can go and get your questions to Az and Sam tomorrow. But yeah, thank you, Sam.
Thanks, Tom. Lovely to see you all.
Cheers, guys.